I read a great quote today, and it was, "The present moment can never be measured, yet it is always here." So when I thought about this for a minute, and I often think about this kind of stuff, I just thought about how applicable this was to me and kind of what I feel and know about just kind of the notion of the present moment or presence or being grounded in, whatever present activity or engagement that you're in. And what it means to me. Basically, when we're just sitting here, doing whatever we're doing. I'm sitting in a car right now, you're sitting at work, you're with friends. There is the propensity to have other things going on in your mind. And that's kind of unavoidable. Usually it has to do with things that are going to happen in the future or things that have already taken place. So when one is thinking about the present moment, it's nearly impossible, I think at least, to be 100% fully engaged in the present moment and nothing else is occurring in your brain, because quite naturally the brain and you are going to, have thoughts going through your head about the past or the future. That's not really going to stop at any point. Now you can have periods where you're feeling more grounded or you're feeling more present, but that doesn't mean that the future and the past completely go away. They're still there once you come out of that present moment in tuneness. So the thing about being present for me is that it is a very useful thing to bring yourself back to. And when you look at it from a standpoint of what, at least in the mind, is the past or the present, in the mind and from the personal standpoint, at least for me, it is an illusion. I'm not saying that things didn't happen that you remember in your past. I'm not saying that things aren't going to happen in the future. What I'm saying is in your mind, it is an illusion. If we go a little bit further, prediction of what's going to come up may take place like that it's going to, because you live day in and day out, and you kind of do the same thing. Sometimes you do different things. Sometimes life is very spontaneous, and I think especially in those spontaneous moments of life, being present is kind of unavoidable. It's like you get caught up in it. You know how time starts to fly when you're being spontaneous and having fun, and then you look at the clock and you're like, oh shit, man, the time is gone. That usually happens when you're in the moment. So your prediction for later on doesn't always pan out. Often it doesn't pan out exactly like you think that it's going to. Probably pretty close to it. And when we're thinking about the past, well, we're thinking about circumstances or events that took place from a very personally biased point of view. Now, that's not to say that those things didn't happen, but seen through the lens of yourself, it can depend on how you view past things that have happened to you, or past things that have happened in your life. A situation that made you happy, a situation that made you sad, loving someone, getting a job, failing a test, somebody being mean to you, losing a loved one. These things are seen from a very personally biased standpoint. That doesn't mean that it's wrong, and that doesn't mean that it didn't happen, but in your head when you're remembering it in real time, that's an illusion. That's not in front of you. That's not what's happening right now. So for me, the best way to ground myself in the present moment is to just take a look at the sensory perception. What do I see in front of me? What do I hear? What kind of things do I feel? The weight of my body, the feeling of sitting in whatever chair or standing up. What kind of smells are going on? All of the sensory perceptions, okay? These things will seem very like, oh yeah, of course, like you're outside and so it's light out, or yeah, you're sitting in a chair and it's hard, blah, blah, blah. But if you're to just like not pass judgment on those kinds of things and just evaluate them from a very unbiased standpoint, that is going to help you. That helps me to be in the moment and reel myself back in instead of going down the rabbit hole of what's going to happen later on. What am I going to do later? What about this? Then you start to worry and get, anxiety about what's, going to happen. Or what has happened? Why did it happen that way? It should have happened this way. It shouldn't have happened this way. That's an endless rabbit hole that you can follow to no avail, honestly. And you can go as far down the rabbit hole as you want to, and then all of a sudden get engaged in a present moment activity, and all of that thinking about what has happened or what is going to happen, it goes straight out the window. It doesn't even play any part in what's going to happen or has happened anyways. So when you can ground yourself, when you can be present, and it's a little weird at first, it's a little kind of odd, it's kind of rudimentary, so you might think like, well, this is stupid, I'm just sitting here. Well, maybe. But focusing on very simple things like that can kind of illuminate the magnificence of what's going on in each moment. And it can kind of bring about an ease into whatever you're doing, whether it's like working. If you're working and you're sitting there and you're just thinking about, I want to not be working, well, of course you're going to dread it. But if you just kind of get into what you're doing and kind of play around with it and just, do whatever work that you are doing very in the moment, well, shit, you're going to get lost in it. And sooner than later, it's going to be over and you're going to be like stoked that you're off of work. Oh. So, anyways, these rabbit holes, the future, the past, doesn't mean that they don't exist. It just means in your head, when you're thinking about them, they are very dangerous holes to follow. And this, for me, this doesn't mean to completely abandon the notions of the future or what has happened in the past, because we learn from our past. We take our experiences and, whatever gained knowledge that we have and wisdoms, and we apply it to, what we're going through now. Same with the future. There is more time coming after this moment. Well, I mean, if we're going to speak my language, there is more now that's going to keep occurring. So, it's going to happen. Life is going to go on until it doesn't. And you're gonna be happier when you have like certain things come about that you've worked hard for. But in my opinion, the planning that happens kind of naturally, because your brain will naturally think like, well, I've got to get more food later, I've got to go to the grocery store so that I can eat later. That'll happen either way. You don't have to force that just takes place. And if you're living a healthy and natural life, all the things that you're kind of doing and into, those are gonna occur. It's when you get super wrapped up in it, super worried about it, super anxious about it, is when there's potential for your expectations to be let down or for you to falter. So, being present. It is helpful to snap yourself back into reality and be objective about what you're doing in life. Be objective about the paths that you're taking, and also, let things come as they do. Don't get your hopes and expectations up so much that you end up being disappointed when something doesn't come to fruition. Or the same thing, don't be so wrapped up in what has happened in the past, which is gone. It is not here. So that you can be in tune with your now and enjoy your now the best as possible. This is my take from it. It might not be yours, but I think about this kind of stuff all too much. I have to get it out sometimes. All right, later.